What's up, beautifully dope people? I told you I was going to get on here and start talking about how your next level is going to be uncomfortable, right? And so that's just what it is. Discomfort is a given. If you're comfortable, that's not a cool place to be. And to be honest with you, comfort is an illusion. We like to think that we're comfortable where we are, but let me tell you the truth. Discomfort is going to come whether you are in the same place or whether you decide to level up. Because here's the thing, the reason you're on here, the reason that you are doing the things that you're doing is because you feel the discomfort. You want to go to the next level. You don't want to stay stuck where you are, you know? And the buzzword around here is confidence. Everybody talks about confidence, or fear of failure, or things like that. But sometimes that's not even what it is. That's not what it is. Sometimes we can't even name what that discomfort is. We just know it feels uncomfortable, right? If you feel uncomfortable and you know that you feel that and you haven't been able to identify what's causing that, just say me in the comments. So anyway, I'm going to tell you why. It's not fear of failure. It's not lack of confidence. It's not that you don't even trust yourself, because I talk about self-trust and self-love and all of that a lot, right? And it's important when you're building your life, when you're manifesting your things, when you are creating the life and business that you want, right? And so it's not about confidence. It's about your identity. Yeah, it's about your identity. That shapes everything that we do. It's tied into who we are, especially it's who we've always been. And that could be a whole nother discussion going into identity and how other people see you, because that's who they've known you to be. And we might get into that today. Who knows? But yeah, a lot of times people feel like when they are uncomfortable, they feel like something is wrong. They feel a resistance. They feel a pushback and things like that. And sometimes they feel like they're just not ready. And that's not it. That discomfort actually means that you are ready to go to the next step, that you're not wanting to stay in the same place. You know you don't want to be in the same place. You don't want to be chasing the same clients who don't get your value, right? You don't want to be networking in the same circles of folks who are not leveling up, right? You don't want to be continuing to do these free speeches in these local groups and it's not leading to anywhere, right? You want to level up to the next thing. You do. You do. So let's talk about it. So again, I got a few notes here. So if you see me looking down, that's what I'm doing. So anyway, one of the reasons that you feel uncomfortable is because, like I said, it's an identity shift that needs to happen. It's an identity shift that needs to happen. Now, I understand who you've always been got you to where you are, but who you are and who you've always been isn't going to get you to that next level. You have to shift. You have to change. You know, yesterday I talked about growth and evolution and that being a necessary part of getting to that next level, right? Whatever that next level is for you, whether it's that promotion, whether it's moving into executive leadership, whether it's really growing your business this year, getting those right ideal clients and that kind of thing, right? And so what has gotten you to where you are isn't going to work. It's not going to get you the next level result. Every pattern that you had, every habit, the way that you make your decisions, the roles that you default to in situations or in people's lives, right? That's who you've been. And that's worked up until now, right? And especially when you were rewarded for that behavior. You know, when you got the pat on the back for that. And this is what I'll give an example of. So I talk a lot to women leaders, right? And yesterday I talked about how many times, because we want to help people, we start businesses, not nonprofits. And we end up overworking ourselves. We end up burning out. We end up feeling depleted. We end up feeling unappreciated, like people just don't get what we offer and what we do and stuff like that. But that's because of how you've been operating it, especially women leaders. A lot of us are naturally born leaders. We were probably the oldest sister, the oldest grandchild, the first one to have kids, that kind of thing. And so it kind of puts you in a different mindset and different level of responsibility, right? And so you were rewarded for doing everything yourself. You were rewarded for being the one to come up with the solutions and then implementing it yourself. You're the one rewarded for getting everybody together. At work, you're getting a pat on the back for cleaning up the break room after the big meeting, and that's not your damn job. You are, you know what I'm saying? You're jumping into things that are more performative than what shows and showcases your actual skill level, the way that you think, how you strategize, right? So it's not always in the doing. And I know we feel like that putting your hands directly into it and being in the doing is where it's at. It's not. We talked about that yesterday, how the project manager gets paid more than a person that's actually installing the electrical cable, right? So anyway, I get it. What you were doing before worked, but it doesn't work now. It doesn't work now. And it's not because those strategies don't work or those things don't work. They don't work for you and where you're trying to go. If you want to stay the same person, if you want to stay in the same position, if you want to keep making the same money, keep doing the same stuff. That's how you get the thing. But, we've heard that whole thing about insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And it truly is. And we don't realize how much we do that in our everyday lives, even in our personal relationships. If you don't stop repeating the same habits, the same form of communication and other things, you're not going to get anything different there. And it's the same thing in your professional relationships as well, right? So I get it. It's not that who you were was wrong. It's not that what you were doing was wrong. It was okay for that place. And that's okay. If you are a casual runner, it's cool that you don't go to the gym every day, that you're not spending these hours and training. But if you're preparing for a marathon, if you're preparing for some award-winning race that matters, your habits have to be different. What you eat is different. How you take care of your body is different. What you drink, the time you go to bed, how much stress you put on yourself, all of that matters when you have something that big. So yeah, you can't take the same casual running habits into marathon preparation, right? That don't work. Okay. So number 2, I want to talk about why we're resistant to that change in our identity. And again, like I said, that's who we've always been, and it's got us to where we are. And so we hold on to it with all of our might, and it's even worse if where you've gotten to is a successful place. You know what I mean? Because you're like, oh, I got here, I'm making 6 figures, da. But also be aware that the 6-figure you isn't the same as a 7-figure you. Those are 2 different mindsets, ways of being, how to operate and how to do things. It requires a totally different strategy. New mentors, new tools, all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? And so I get it. It's like, well, I've been doing this and this has gotten me here and I'm great so far. Yeah, but if you want to get to the next level, you want to get higher, then you got to do some new things. So I understand that there's going to be a little resistance. You're not going to want to give up that old identity because that's who you've always been and it's gotten you there. And also when you've built a reputation on who you used to be, people can depend on that. It's predictable. We know that we can get this out of her, right? And so you kind of don't want to lose that either. You're like, well, people know me for this. It's just like, I was talking to somebody the other day and they were talking about stepping into thought leadership and some of the things that they've already been doing. And, I was giving them a little direction on some of the things that they would have to change as far as their positioning, visibility, so that they can get to that next stage and be taken seriously as a thought leader in that lane, But it was uncomfortable for them because they've never done that. They didn't even know they needed to do some of the things that I was talking about. You know what I'm saying? And so there was a resistance because who they've always been that got them to where they are in the current level of recognition and some semblance of success is just not going to be what takes them to the next level. It's not going to be what gets people to take them seriously. It's not going to be what gets people to actually hear them. You know what I mean? And so I get we like being predictable. We like knowing, what's gonna happen. And I I understand that when you're doing something new, it's uncomfortable because you don't know what's gonna happen, right? You can't anticipate everything that's gonna happen in this change, right? Moving from an apartment to the house, you can't anticipate everything that's going to change. You have some sort of idea, but you know that that apartment living is different than that house living. And if you purchase that home, that's a whole different level of responsibility and maintenance and things. You know what I'm saying? So I get why it was comfortable to hold on to that little apartment. I loved it. It fit me. It was so great. But you want to move into home ownership, you got to do some different things. You got to be prepared for some different bills. You got to be prepared for a different mindset, right? And that's the same when it comes to leveling up in your leadership journey. Yeah, it was cute, it was comfortable, it was cozy, but it's going to require some different level of responsibility and accountability to get to the next phase, right? Another thing that I see all the time is that, like I said, people, when they are feeling that discomfort, they're like, oh, I'm not ready. Or no, I can't do this. It's awkward, it's unfamiliar. We just talked about that whole unfamiliarity and not wanting to go forward because it doesn't feel good. I get it. I get it. And that's because, again, who you are and who you're operating as, it hasn't caught up to where you want to go and who you want to be and the people that you want to impact, right? And so I'm going to say this, though. If you weren't ready, you wouldn't feel that pull. You wouldn't feel that call. You wouldn't have those skills. You know what I'm saying? I talked the other day about how what's in us, the things that we want and the things that we desire, our desires are holy. And the Creator put those things in us so that we can live out and be an expression of creation, and make that impact through the gifts that you have, through those ideas, through those things that were imparted into you, right? And so you have to realize that it was given to you for a reason. It's yours. Not yours for you to just hold, but yours for you to do something with it. So when you're given a new responsibility, it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's just what it is. And so you're having to take more effort to get this help because you feel uncomfortable and you don't know what to do. But so it's not that something is wrong. Something is new and it's supposed to feel uncomfortable, whatever it is. If you're learning something different that you've never done before, even though it's similar, but you've never been there, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to feel crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with who you were. It just doesn't serve where you are now and where you want to go. And so go through this whole thing about just really looking at your identity and how it got you to where you are and how to see where it's limiting you now, And so I want y'all to take a look at that, but it's going to basically reinforce some of the things that I've been talking about over the last couple of days, what I've talked about today and stuff like that. I mean, it's going to introduce you a little bit to my lead framework that talks all about leadership mindset, empowered growth, aligned action, decision confidence, and it introduces you that to a little bit so that you can see your next level is going to require a level of growth that, and not really growth. I like using the word evolution because in my mind, growth means you're staying the same, you're just getting bigger. Now, if that serves you, that's cool. You know what I mean? But sometimes the things that we're called to do and the places that we want to step into and the things that we want to be require us to be a different version of ourselves. It requires us to be something else, somebody else, So it requires you to evolve, not just grow. That's a talk for another day, though. But it's going to help you examine what your current leadership looks like, what your ideas about it are, how you are used to being recognized for your level of leadership, your level of success, and those traits that got you to where you are now, right? And then it's going to help you get a little deeper and help you ask yourself some questions to uncover what you need to do to get to that next level. Okay. So, yeah, that's about it. I never really know how to end these things. I just be like, all right, bye y'all. Because I really just get on here talking. You know what I'm saying? This isn't like some sort of structured speech and I'm on stage and giving this keynote or anything like that. I just like to jump on here and give y'all a game. And I will holler at y'all later. Peace and blessings.